The Zephyrian arena buzzed with an otherworldly energy as athletes from across the galaxy gathered for the 746th Pangalactic Athletic Championship. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and consistencies milled about, their bodies primed for the grueling events ahead. Zelovine, the willowy luminarian high jumper, stretched her gossamer limbs in preparation for her event. Her iridescent skin shimmered under the arena's lights, captivating nearby spectators. She turned to her teammate, Gloof, a gelatinous long-distance runner from Blaboria Prime. "Can you believe we made it here, Gloof? After all those cycles of training?" Gloof burbled excitedly, its amorphous form rippling with anticipation. "I know, it's surreal, but I'm worried about the gravity here. It's heavier than I expected." Zelovine nodded sympathetically. "Tell me about it. My wings feel like they're made of neutronium, but we've trained for this, right? We can adapt." Nearby, Krexit, the chitinoid wrestler from Exoskel 7, clicked his mandibles nervously. "I heard a rumor that they're allowing a Deathworlder to compete this cycle. Is that even legal?" A hush fell over the nearby athletes. Deathworlders were the stuff of legends, beings from high-gravity, high-radiation planets with extreme weather conditions. They were known for their incredible durability and strength, but most civilized worlds considered them too dangerous to interact with directly. Xylopax, the gaseous ambassador overseeing the games, floated over to address the concerned athletes. Now, let's not get carried away with rumors. The Intergalactic Athletic Committee has strict rules about..." Suddenly, the arena's announcement system crackled to life. "Attention all athletes and spectators. We are thrilled to announce a last-minute addition to our event roster. For the first time in Pangalactic Championship history, we will be welcoming a competitor from the newly discovered world of Earth." The arena erupted into chaos. Athletes gasped, officials scrambled, and spectators buzzed with a mixture of excitement and terror. Zelovine's wings drooped. "Earth? Isn't that the Class 12 Death World we just made contact with last stellar cycle?" Gloop's gelatinous form quivered. I thought that was just a holovid myth. They're real?" Kersixteet's exoskeleton paled. "We're doomed. How can we compete against a creature that evolved in that kind of environment?" As panic spread through the arena, Xylopax tried to maintain order. "Everyone, please remain calm. The IAC has assured us that all necessary precautions have been taken. The Earth competitor will be closely monitored, and..." The ambassador's words were cut short as the main entrance to the arena slid open with a hydraulic hiss. A hush fell over the crowd as a figure stepped through. She wasn't particularly tall. In fact, many of the alien athletes towered over her. Her skin wasn't iridescent or scaled or composed of swirling gases. She looked surprisingly ordinary. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head with a tuft of colorful fur on top. But there was something about the way she moved, a fluid grace that hinted at coiled power beneath the surface. The human surveyed the arena, her eyes widening as she took in the kaleidoscope of alien life forms before her. Then, to everyone's shock, she smiled, a gesture that exposed a row of blunt white teeth. "Hi there," she called out, her voice carrying easily across the now silent arena. "I'm Jackson Ravencroft. Sorry I'm late, had a bit of trouble with the teleporter. So, where do I sign in?" The silence stretched for 1 heartbeat, then 2. Then the arena exploded into a cacophony of alien languages, urgent whispers, and the occasional terrified shriek. The 746th Pangalactic Athletic Championship was about to get a whole lot more interesting. As the furor over Jackson's arrival gradually subsided, the Pangalactic Championship organizers scrambled to accommodate their unexpected guest. The human athlete found herself whisked away for last-minute medical checks and equipment fittings, leaving the alien competitors to stew in their anxiety. 3 solar cycles later, the games were in full swing. Despite the initial panic, Jackson's presence hadn't resulted in the catastrophic destruction many had feared. In fact, her performance in the events had been underwhelming. She'd placed respectably in the middle of the pack for most competitions, much to the relief and secret disappointment of the spectators hoping for a more dramatic show. It was during a lull between events that Jackson found herself wandering into the athletes' recovery area. The space was filled with various alien technologies designed to soothe aching muscles, realign energy fields, and replenish depleted nutrients. Jackson's eyes widened as she took in the bizarre array of equipment. "Whoa," she muttered, "and I thought the ice baths back home were hardcore." A frazzled-looking Quetzilian, with 4 arms and blue-green scales, hurried over to her. "Ah, Earth being, I am Zixlorp, head of athlete care. How may we assist you? Perhaps a molecular reassembly chamber or a gravity flux cocoon?" Jackson blinked. Actually, I was just hoping for a massage, to work out some knots." Zixlorp's bioluminescent spots flashed in confusion. "Massage? Ah, yes, the primitive manual manipulation technique. I'm afraid our staff isn't trained in such archaic methods." "Oh," Jackson's face fell. "That's too bad. I always feel so much better after a good rubdown." Zixlorp's 4 eyes darted nervously around the room. Most of the alien athletes were giving the human a wide berth, eyeing her with a mixture of curiosity and fear. An idea began to form in the Quetzilian's mind. "Perhaps you could demonstrate this technique?" Zixlorp suggested. "It could be most educational for our staff, and it might help ease some of the tension your presence has caused." Jackson's face lit up. "Really? I'd love to help out. I'm not a pro or anything, but I've taken a few classes. Who wants a massage?" The room went deathly quiet. Athletes froze mid-stretch, their alien anatomies contorting in ways that would have fascinated an Earth biologist. Finally, a timid voice spoke up. It was Zilovine, the Luminarian high jumper. "I volunteer," she said, her gossamer wings trembling slightly. "My dorsal filaments have been aching something fierce since the gravity shift." Jackson beamed. "Great. Just lie down on one of these, massage slab thingies, and I'll do my best to help you out." As Zilovine nervously positioned herself, a small crowd began to gather. Curiosity was overcoming fear, and many athletes wanted to witness this strange massage firsthand. Jackson cracked her knuckles, an action that caused several nearby aliens to flinch. "Okay, let's see what we can do about those aching filaments. Just relax and let me know if anything feels uncomfortable." With that, she placed her hands on Zilovine's shimmering back and began to apply pressure. The Luminarian's eyes widened in surprise. "Oh, that's actually quite nice," Zilovine murmured. "It's like 1,000 tiny gravitational waves rippling through my sweet celestial bodies." Jackson's thumbs had found a particularly tight knot, and she pressed into it firmly. Zilovine's entire body lit up like a supernova, momentarily blinding everyone in the vicinity. "Sorry," Jackson exclaimed, pulling her hands away. "Did that hurt? I can ease up if—" "No," Zilovine interrupted, her voice filled with a mixture of pain and ecstasy. "It hurts, but it hurts so good. Please, continue." Encouraged, Jackson resumed her ministrations. The gathered aliens watched in fascination as Zilovine writhed and glowed, letting out occasional yelps and sighs of relief. After about 15 minutes, Jackson stepped back, looking pleased. "How do you feel now?" Zilovine sat up, stretching her wings experimentally. Her entire body seemed to shimmer with renewed energy. "I feel incredible, like I could jump over a gas giant. How did you do that?" Before Jackson could answer, she found herself mobbed by eager athletes, all clamoring for a turn. "Me next! No, me! My tentacles are killing me! I haven't been able to secrete properly in days!" Zixlorp watched in amazement as Jackson began working on a blowboreal runner, her strong fingers sinking deep into its gelatinous form. The human's face was a picture of concentration, completely oblivious to the potential diplomatic incident unfolding around her. As aliens lined up for their turn, none of them realized that they were about to experience the full, unintentional force of human strength, and that the recovery area was about to become very crowded indeed. The next few hours in the recovery area were a whirlwind of activity. Jackson moved from one alien athlete to another, her hands working tirelessly to ease aches, soothe strains, and unknot muscles, or the alien equivalent thereof. The room filled with a cacophony of alien sounds, sighs of relief, yelps of surprise, and the occasional alarming crackle of energy discharge. It was during her massage of Kurzext, the chitinoid wrestler, that things took a turn for the unexpected. A little to the left, Kurzext clicked, his mandibles quivering with anticipation. "Yes, right there between the 3rd and 4th thoracic plates. Great hive, mother!" Jackson's fingers had found a particularly tight spot, and she applied firm, steady pressure. There was a sound like cracking ice, and suddenly, Kurzekt's exoskeleton split clean down the middle. The room went silent. Jackson's eyes widened in horror. "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." But to everyone's surprise, Krizix began to laugh, a strange, chittering sound that reverberated through the room. "Glorious," he exclaimed, wriggling free of his old shell. "I've been needing to molt for weeks, but the stress of competition was preventing it. You've done me a great service, human." Jackson let out a relieved laugh, wiping sweat from her brow. "Well, I'm glad I could help. Maybe we should put up a warning sign. Massages may cause spontaneous molting." The crisis averted, the line of eager aliens grew even longer. Word had spread throughout the arena about the human's magic touch, and now even non-competitors were trying to sneak in for a session. It was as Jackson was working on Gloof, the Blaborial runner, that the next incident occurred. Her strong fingers kneaded deep into Gloof's gelatinous form, sending ripples of pleasure through its amorphous body. "Oh, that's divine," Gloof burbled contentedly. "I can feel my cytoplasm realigning already. Wait, what's happening? I feel. Suddenly, Gloof's body began to vibrate at an alarming frequency. Before anyone could react, the Blaborial exploded into dozens of smaller blobs, each one quivering with what appeared to be ecstasy. "Gloof!" Xylovine cried out in alarm. "Are you okay?" The largest of the blobs reformed a rudimentary mouth. "Okay, I'm fantastic. I haven't undergone mitosis in years. I feel like a whole new me. Well, several new mes." Jackson stood there, hands still outstretched, looking utterly bewildered. I think I need a break," she stammered, but the aliens were having none of it. The line surged forward, each being desperate to experience the human's touch for themselves. "Please, just 5 minutes on my gravitic stabilizers. My photosynthetic membranes are so tense. Help me, Earth Savior. I've got a dimensional fold that's been bothering me for eons." Overwhelmed, Jackson did her best to accommodate everyone. Her hands moved from scaly hides to plasma fields, from crystalline structures to beings made of pure energy. With each massage, the effects became more and more extreme. A Vortexian sprinter suddenly developed the ability to teleport short distances. A quantum boxer's probability fields went haywire, causing them to exist in multiple states simultaneously. A nebuloid distance runner condensed into a miniature star, briefly turning the recovery area into a sauna. Through it all, Jackson kept going, driven by a mix of politeness, curiosity, and the growing realization that she might be causing an interstellar incident. It was only when she reached Zixlorp, who had finally given in to temptation and joined the queue, that things came to a head. "Just a light touch, please," Zixlorp said nervously. "My species is known for its sensitive neural clusters." Jackson nodded, gently placing her hands on Zixlorp's scaly back. She had barely applied any pressure when the Quatzillion let out a deafening shriek. All 4 of Zixlorp's arms began to windmill wildly, and their bioluminescent spots flashed in a dizzying array of colors. "Cosmic convergence," Zixlorp howled. "I can see through time." And with that, the head of athlete care collapsed into a twitching, babbling heap on the floor, spouting prophecies in a dozen dead languages. The recovery area descended into chaos. Some athletes were cheering their newfound abilities, while others were panicking over their unexpected transformations. Alarms began to blare, and the sound of rapidly approaching security echoes could be heard in the hallway. Jackson stood in the middle of it all, looking shell-shocked. "I was just trying to help," she mumbled, staring at her hands as if seeing them for the first time. As the doors burst open and a team of heavily armed security droids rushed in, Jackson had only one thought. This was definitely not covered in her basic massage therapy class back on Earth. The aftermath of Jackson's massage therapy session was nothing short of pandemonium. The Pangalactic Championship's medical bay, typically a serene environment of soft beeps and gentle healing rays, now resembled the chaotic triage unit of a battlefield hospital. Alien athletes in various states of distress filled every available bed, examination table, and even some hastily repurposed storage containers. The air was thick with a cacophony of pained moans, ecstatic gibberish, and the occasional explosion of spontaneous energy discharge. Dr. Zilfix, the championship's head physician, darted from patient to patient, all 6 of their eye stalks swiveling independently in barely contained panic. "I don't understand," they exclaimed, tentacles frantically working a dozen medical scanners at once. "These readings are impossible." In one corner, the Blaborial runner Gloof was still trying to pull itself together, literally. Small globules of its being kept splitting off, each developing a mind of its own and attempting to crawl away. A team of nurses armed with specimen jars worked tirelessly to keep all of Gloof in one general area. "I regret nothing," one tiny blob squeaked as it was scooped up and returned to the main mass. Nearby, Zilovine, the Luminarian, hovered near the ceiling, her normally gossamer wings now crackling with barely contained electromagnetic energy. Every few seconds, she'd discharge a bolt of lightning, causing the lights to flicker and nearby equipment to short out. "I'm sorry," she called down, her voice distorted by the energy coursing through her. "I can't seem to control it, but I feel amazing." In another section, Kurzix the Chitinoid wrestler was surrounded by a growing pile of discarded exoskeletons. He seemed to be molting a new one every few minutes, each shell larger and more elaborately spiked than the last. "I've never felt so alive," he chittered excitedly, even as nurses struggled to keep up with the mounting pile of razor-sharp discarded armor. And in the center of it all, strapped to a reinforced examination table and surrounded by a containment field, lay Zixlorp. The Quatzilian's eyes rolled wildly, all four arms twitching as they spouted an endless stream of prophecies and quantum equations. "The cosmic ballet continues," Zixlorp shrieked. "Beware the coming of the great green arclicizer. It hungers for improbability." Meanwhile, in a secure conference room far from the medical bay chaos, an emergency meeting of the Intergalactic Athletic Committee was underway. Representatives from a dozen different species argued in a flurry of translated shouts, psychic projections, and pheromone bursts. "This is unprecedented," bellowed Gorblax the Unpronounceable, his gelatinous form quivering with indignation. "We must disqualify the human immediately." "On what grounds?" countered Ambassador Plex 17, her holographic form flickering with agitation. "Technically, she hasn't violated any specific rules. There's nothing in the bylaws about catastrophic massage therapy." "But the integrity of the games," Gorblax began, only to be cut off by a sharp whistle from Chairbang Zexla. "Enough!" Zixla's voice reverberated through the room, momentarily stunning everyone into silence. "We need to focus on containment and damage control. Where is the human now?" All eyes and various sensory organs turned to Security Chief Vrax, a hulking thoraxian whose carapace was currently a nervous shade of mauve. "Well," Vrax began hesitantly, mandibles clicking. "That's complicated." Back in the depths of the Zephyrian arena, Jackson Ravencroft sat alone in a hastily converted storage closet, her makeshift cell guarded by no less than 3 heavily armed security drones. She stared at her hands, flexing her fingers as if seeing them for the first time. "I don't get it," she muttered to herself. "I was just trying to help. How did everything go so wrong?" A small view screen flickered to life on the wall opposite her, displaying the stern face of Ambassador Plex 17. "Human Jackson," the ambassador's translated voice crackled through a speaker. "We have questions." Jackson looked up, her expression a mix of confusion and determination. "Yeah, well, so do I, starting with, what the hell is going on with my hands?" As if in response, her fingers began to glow with a faint, pulsing energy. Jackson's eyes widened in shock, and for a moment, the enormity of the situation truly hit her. She wasn't just an athlete anymore. She had become something else entirely, a force of chaos in a galaxy that was wholly unprepared for the raw, unfiltered power of a human touch. And as alarms began to blare once again throughout the arena, Jackson realized that her adventure was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity that would go down in galactic history as the Great Pangalactic Massage Incident. As news of Jackson's therapeutic touch spread across the cosmos, the Zephyrian arena found itself at the center of an interstellar media frenzy. Jackson, still confined to her makeshift cell, had become the subject of intense debate and wild speculation. Conspiracy theorists claimed she was a secret weapon deployed by Earth to destabilize galactic society. New Age gurus hailed her as the prophesied cosmic chiropractor, come to realign the universe's chakras. Meanwhile, the affected athletes were quarantined in a specially constructed containment facility. Their conditions had evolved. Zilovine, the Luminarian high jumper, had become a being of pure energy. Her consciousness spread across multiple dimensions. She communicated in pulses of light that required a team of quantum linguists to interpret. "I can see forever," her latest message translated. Also, does anyone know how to turn off the cosmic background radiation? It's getting a bit loud. Kruzixex, the chitinoid wrestler, had finally stopped molting, but only because he had reached a size that threatened to collapse the facility under his own gravitational pull. Engineers worked round the clock to reinforce the structure, while biologists marveled at his new planet-sized exoskeleton. Gloof, once a single bloborial runner, had become a hive mind of thousands. Each droplet was now sapient, engaged in a never-ending debate about which direction they should ooze next. And Zixlorp? The poor Quatzillion had transcended linear time altogether. One moment they'd be reciting the ingredients for a sandwich they'd eat 3 centuries from now. The next, they'd be humming the hit song of a civilization that went extinct millions of years ago. As for Jackson, she sat in her cell, surrounded by a team of the galaxy's foremost xenobiologists, physicists, and metaphysicians. They prodded her with instruments, bombarded her with questions, and generally treated her like the most fascinating lab specimen in the universe. "But I don't understand," Jackson protested for what felt like the 1,000th time. "I'm just me, a regular human. This kind of thing doesn't happen back on Earth." Dr. Quick 7, a neutronium being encased in a containment suit, waved a sensor over Jackson's hands. "Fascinating. It appears that the cellular structure of your epidermis is in a state of quantum flux, constantly shifting between multiple probabilistic states." Come again?" Jackson blinked. "Layman's terms, Quick 7, barked Chief Scientist Zorgax. "What the good doctor means, human, is that your touch seems to rewrite the fundamental laws of physics on a localized scale." Jackson stared at her hands in disbelief. "But how?" Before anyone could attempt an explanation, alarms began to blare throughout the facility. The door to Jackson's cell burst open, revealing a panicked-looking Ambassador Plex 17. "We have a situation," the ambassador's hologram flickered urgently. "The quarantine has been breached. The affected athletes are loose in the arena." Chaos erupted as scientists and security personnel scrambled to respond. In the confusion, Jackson found herself face-to-face with Ambassador Plex 17. "Human," the ambassador's voice was deadly serious. "I know we've treated you like a threat, but right now, you might be our only hope. Your abilities, they started this mess. Maybe they can end it too." Jackson swallowed hard, looking down at her still glowing hands. I don't know if I can control it. What if I make things worse?" Plex 17's holographic form shimmered with what might have been a smile. "My dear, I don't think things can get much worse. Sometimes you just have to embrace the chaos." With a deep breath, Jackson nodded. "All right, let's do this. But I'm going to need a lot of hand sanitizer when this is over." As Jackson stepped out into the corridor, the sound of distant explosions and reality-warping chaos grew louder. She flexed her fingers, feeling the strange new power coursing through them. Time to give the universe the massage it never knew it needed. This, she muttered. What followed was a spectacle that defied description in any known language. Jackson raced through the arena, her glowing hands leaving trails of quantum probability in her wake. She grappled with Corsexteet's planet-sized form, her touch causing his exoskeleton to shrink and reshape itself. She waded through the thousands of gloop droplets, each caress merging them back into a singular, if somewhat dazed, being. Silovine proved the trickiest, her energy form slipping through dimensions faster than Jackson could follow. But with a lucky grab and what could only be described as a metaphysical noogie, Jackson managed to coalesce the Luminarian back into physical form. Hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Finally, as the last of the affected athletes was returned to a semblance of normality, Jackson collapsed to her knees, exhausted but triumphant. The arena fell silent, save for the occasional crackle of residual energy and the confused murmurs of the gathered aliens. Then, slowly at first, but building to a crescendo, a cheer went up. It started with the athletes Jackson had just unmassaged and spread to the spectators, officials, and even the security drones. As Jackson looked around in bewilderment, she saw something she never expected: gratitude, admiration, and maybe just a hint of newfound respect in the eyes and various sensory organs of the assembled aliens. Ambassador Plex 17's hologram flickered into view beside her. "Well, Human Jackson, it seems you've managed to avert a cosmic crisis. The Intergalactic Athletic Committee has decided to award you a special commendation, the Golden Touch Award for unprecedented athletic support and reality manipulation. Jackson laughed, a sound of pure relief and joy. Thanks, I guess, but maybe next time I'll stick to the high jump. As the cheers continued and the cleanup began, Jackson couldn't help but smile. She'd come to these games hoping to prove that humans could compete on a galactic stage. Instead, she'd shown the universe something far more important, that sometimes the most powerful force in the cosmos is a helping hand, even if that hand occasionally warps the fabric of reality. The 746th Pangalactic Athletic Championship would go down in history not for its athletic achievements, but for the day a human massage therapist turned the universe inside out and then put it back together again. And as for Jackson Ravencroft, well, let's just say her appointment book was about to get very full indeed.